What's up, everybody? Welcome to the top 5 death metal albums of 1998. 1998 wasn't the best year for death metal, but there were definitely a few gems released that would go down as some of the greatest metal albums of all time. The albums on this list are all-timers for sure, but the ones that didn't make it are not that great. It's quite a discrepancy. And some quick honorable mentions go to Morbid Angel's Formula's Fatal to the Flesh, which is good, but not nearly as good as other albums in their catalog, and definitely not good enough to place on this list above some of the others. Also, Bolt Thrower with Mercenary deserves a nod. Honestly, every Bolt Thrower song sounds basically the same to me, but they're super dense and I like the deathy, doomy vibe in their music. I dig it, but it gets old super fast. And I really want to mention Opeth's My Arms, Your Hearse, which is utterly fantastic, but it's more prog than pure death metal, unlike these other albums. But aside from those, it's pretty slim pickings, so let's get to number 5. If you've never heard this album, you are forgiven, because in the 90s, a lot of Behemoth's music wasn't licensed out to North America, so this album isn't even on streaming services like Apple Music or Spotify, unfortunately. It's a travesty because this album is awesome. Nurgle is at peak evil here, and this album is tinged with epic visions of ancient Eastern civilization. Of course, the signature blackened death metal sound absolutely rips, and it's incredibly satisfying, and this is one of the first albums that Behemoth started to leave black metal behind and dive more into death metal. And thank goodness they did, because they absolutely killed it. Let's get to number 4. This is one of Cannibal Corpse's top releases, in my opinion, and it was the first of their albums to feature future Weapons Cash champion Pat O'Brien. His presence on this album is apparent right away, with crawling, intricate riffing riddled throughout the entire album. Likely the best Cannibal Corpse instrumental, From Skin to Liquid, leads an impressive list of classic death metal jammers. Other top songs on this album include Sentence to Burn and the humongously melodic and neck-breaking epic title track. Cannibal Corpse, quite honestly, have never released a bad album, and this is at the top of their catalog and definitely earns a spot on this list. Okay, so this is one of the most avant-garde and esoteric pieces of music I've ever listened to. I spoke about its incredible influence and importance in my History of Death Metal series, but if I'm being completely transparent with you guys, it took me so many listens to really get a grasp on what was going on in this album. The thing is that this album is playing with so many different dissonant sounds and rhythms and instruments that you're listening and you find yourself going like, what the f*** is this? Is this actually death metal? But in the end, as odd as it sounds, it is undeniably death metal. That twangy slap riff sound on the title track is so damn drudging and heavy that it's immediately recognizable as a powerful death metal beat. This album inspired generations of progressive and technical death metal, with the band OBSCURA even being named after this album. While there hasn't been anything in tech death or even prog that has really come close to matching the sound on display here, you can hear bands like Beyond Creation and of course Revocation constantly taking inspiration from this album in particular on songs like Dismantle the Dictator. Despite its chaotic fury and dissonant sound, this album no doubt goes down as one of the greatest metal albums of all time. This is easily the most brutal album on this list. And that's kind of CRYPTOPSY's brand of tech death, to the point where I'm wondering, is this more of a brutal death metal band? But those questions are quickly dismissed when I hear the fleeting fretwork of John Levasseur and of course the stop on a dime drumming that hits you like a brick wall. CRYPTOPSY joins Gorguts as incredibly unique Quebec bands that would inspire generations of tech death. No band truly grooves as hard as CRYPTOPSY in the death metal scene while being so damn heavy. I believe the inclusion of vocalist Mike Del Salvo is for the better. And this album, while not to the level of None So Vile, is still a fantastic banger that deserves its spot among death metal's all-time greats. And of course, the best death metal album of 1998, and likely the best death metal album of all time, if not one of the greatest metal albums itself of all time, is shame on you if you think there could be any album that could possibly top this as the best album of this year. Not only is this arguably death metal's crowning achievement, it's arguably one of the crowning achievements in all of metal. The beauty and depth of Chuck Schuldner's brilliance is put on no higher display than here. Front to back, this album is an all-time classic. From the shredtacular opening track to the soul-crushing, despair-inducing beauty of Voice of the Soul, your heart will be tugged left and right by the awe-inspiring flow that Chuck has put forth for us here. Like, I could literally make love to this album. If a normie asked me for an intro into more extreme types of music, this would likely be my first choice, as Death are able to weave melody, brutality, speed, and virtuosity into one perfect package that may never be topped in death metal and can be appreciated by anyone that isn't a completely ignorant imbecile. Death are undoubtedly the GOATs, and this album will forever be enshrined in history as a 12 out of 10 rust in peace tier masterpiece, and easily the greatest death metal album of 1998 by light years. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know down below what your top death metal albums of 1998 are. And we will see you next week on the heaviest show in the universe. Long live metal.